Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today, yet again, we are talking about family immigration. Specifically, probably I would say the most important part of the application process, petition for alien relative, the applicant interview. Of course, on the Department of State's website, it is listed as a step 11 before, of course, coming to the United States. But I would think it's really the final step and probably where you really need to approach it very, very carefully with a lot of responsibility. Your beneficiaries, that is, if you are a petitioner. And recently I've got one of the comments from one of the subscribers saying that the parent was denied. The parent was the beneficiary, the person who messaged me is the petitioner, and everything was going good. The parent went for the visa interview and was denied during the interview. And then upon some explanation, I found out that it was because of the text transcript. So the beneficiary, he had all the documents with him, the tax returns, all of that sort of stuff, but he was missing the tax transcripts. And apparently he was asked specifically about where those tax transcripts are. And the person answered, the beneficiary answered the parent that they were hesitating, basically. They said, I'm not sure, I don't know what it is, I'm not sure what the tax transcript is, here it is, and he was showing the tax refund documents. So I wanted to make this video to bring up, if you have obviously the family immigration case, in process, you're waiting, you're a petitioner or you're a beneficiary and you're waiting for that visa to finally be available to you. Because if you're familiar with the process, most of the times it is a very lengthy process, and there are a lot of steps that are involved. You're filing the I-130, and then once you providing all the documents to USCIS, once your USCIS case is approved, which takes a long time, your case is transferred to the NVC, and then the NVC does the processing. A lot of steps, a lot of fees that you pay, and it is extremely frustrating. It's very understandable that once you go to that very final step and they ask for the same document that you have already uploaded to the NVC portal, that's the biggest, probably the frustration, that you have already submitted these documents before the interview. That's why they scheduled the interview. Okay, I understand bringing the originals, birth certificate, marriage certificate, makes sense. You want to see that the document is original and that they really have it and all sort of stuff. But the copies that you have already uploaded to the portal and that were already reviewed and approved, is quite ridiculous. Nevertheless, that's really one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video is if you are in the process of going through that family immigration case and you didn't get to that applicant interview yet, the very final stage, the interview of the beneficiary, make sure that you take it really, really serious. And it's better to overbring stuff with you than not bring enough of the stuff. And as of recently, NVC, the Department of State, whenever they send you that email notifying you about the interview, they do list all of the documents in there. They say which documents you need to bring with you. And as of recently, they are specifically asking for the tax transcript from the sponsors. If you have, if you're the sponsor and you have joint sponsors, everybody's tax transcripts for 2 years, for the past 2 years. So, and before, earlier, not too long, probably a year ago, they were not asking the tax transcripts, they were asking for the tax returns, and that's it. But now you have to bring the tax transcripts specifically. And it is a little bit, it's a little bit different obtaining tax transcripts because normally you don't have those. You do have the tax return documents, but you don't really necessarily have tax transcripts, all right? Which is really pretty much the same thing. It's just a bunch of this crazy bureaucracy, right? People obsessed with documentation. But if that made the process easier by submitting everything electronically in advance and then being reviewed and being approved, fine. But it's not, because they're asking again the same stuff, and they're denying interviews if you don't have that, which is crazy. Crazy to think about. Anyway, another reason why I wanted to make this video is because I wanted to kind of give you options, somewhat options. You really don't really have that many options, but if in case of the interview is denied, what to do if your family-based, for immigrant visa interview is denied. So whenever it comes to the denial in the US Embassy, just like denial with USCIS application, you do typically get a response about why you were denied, the reasons, and also the options that you have. Can you schedule another appointment and come back later and bring the additional documents? Because in the case that I just gave you about the person's father denied at the interview, the beneficiary, and he got denied because of lack of evidence, lack of documents supporting documentation. So for him, he does have an option to reschedule that interview and say, hey, all of the required documents were collected, now I know what it is, come back and submit it. So it will depend a lot on the nature of that denial, because denial also there's also refusal to give the visa. So refusal and denial it's a little bit different whenever it comes to the immigration law. So with the refusal, in the example that I said, it was refusal rather than denial. It refused to give you visa now, but you can come back and provide the additional documents, and we will consider giving you visa later. But then there are other more severe circumstances when the visa is denied. For example, they suspect fraud or something serious that is involved, maybe criminal background or something that hinders the eligibility, all right, to get the immigrant visa. In those cases, yeah, that gets a little bit more serious. If you denied, you probably are, for the petitioner, it's definitely time to reach out to an immigration attorney, find some legal help, go through a few consultations and see what options you have, what it is that you can do. Keep in mind though, if you're going head to head and you're fighting, Department of State, U.S. Embassy, consider it the battle that if you're too aggressive, you're not going to accomplish anything. Your best bet is to be as professional, as polite, to get maybe some information out, maybe the reasoning behind the denial, because it is giving the reason. It's I don't think it's fair, but at the end of the day, it is at full discretion of the U.S. Embassy. So if U.S. Embassy decides to deny you a visa and say, we're not going to give you the reason why, we just denied, you cannot do anything about it technically, because by law, they can't do that. It's not fair, but at the moment, that's how it is. So a lot of times, if you have a reason, a lot of times these reasons are very vague, because if somebody says, oh, you don't meet the eligibility criteria. Okay, but that's not the reason. It's really, really vague. Okay, eligibility. What eligibility criteria? What am I supposed to look at? Is that my education? Is that my career? Is that my political affiliation? I don't know. However many reasons are there or can be possibly, right? Eligibility criteria. So if you decide to go that route and hire an immigration attorney, just kind of keep in mind that the attorney is representing you. So don't push the attorney to just file as many complaints and do all of these things, because a lot of times you really are in control whenever it comes to hiring an attorney. So if you give the attorney kind of that, just do everything you can, they will try to do everything they can, and a lot of times they can make things worse than better, unfortunately. But that's just how things are, because again, it is at full discretion of U.S. Embassy to not give you a reason or deny or refuse the visa. Another thing that I wanted to mention in this video regarding the example, the case that I brought up, it's if you look at this, yes, from one look at this case, it seems like, okay, yeah, it's definitely the reason for denial is definitely the lack of evidence. But if you take a closer look at this case, you will also see that the response from the beneficiary kind of showed that lack of intent to immigrate to the United States. Because if they are not familiar, if they are getting confused over tax returns, tax transcripts, yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, we're talking about the person who lives in a foreign country. They're not familiar with how these things work here in the United States. True, but this person had years planning, intending to immigrate to the United States of America, supposedly, right? Because you're applying and you're doing it in advance, years in advance. So within all these years, and knowing that Department of State, NVC, they request these documents, still not doing their research and learning what it is, and going to an interview and being, all over the place and providing the document, the wrong document that is not, and then saying that he does not understand what tax transcript is, it shows to the consul, to whoever's interviewing you, that you're not really that much interested in immigrating to the United States. Because if you were, you would have known all of this. I am ready to go and live in the United States of America. That's the attitude that you want to bring to the embassy, or your beneficiary wants to bring to the embassy. I am ready to live in the United States of America. Tax transcripts? Of course, here they are. Tax refund? Yeah, of course, here it is. Cannot wait to go to America and file my own tax refunds or returns, whatever. You get the point. I mean, I'm humor here, but I'm trying to make it really kind of understandable that you have to be familiar with all the documents. You have to know, I am going there, I will live there, I'm planning to do there. Of course, all of this is, you can build plans all day, but we have to show the intention to immigrate, and it's very, very important during the interview. So, as always, thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I do. If you haven't watched any of my videos, or if you're not subscribed to this channel, I do every other day videos that are called Answering Your Comments and Immigration Questions. Yes, answering your comments and common immigration questions. And they go by volume. So I go through all of your comments and answer. So if you do post a question in the comments below, I will definitely get to that and I will be able to answer them. As always, thank you very much for watching. God bless, and I will see you in the next video.